Hey everybody, I want to welcome you to this week's webinar on Brennan. We're at Tiffany Green's Golf Club, Kansas City, Missouri. As usual, we're brought to you by Kick-X Golf and Medicus Golf. If you've been following anything on Facebook, you may have seen this, and hopefully you can see it in the right way. One of our members made these up, and now everybody's getting these things. So it can be a good thing, or if you play bad, it's a bad thing. If you play good, it's a really good thing. Yeah. So, yeah. If you have any questions, just type them in the sidebar and we'll get to this after we talk about it. So this week's webinar is a kind of a recap of Masters. You know, Jordan went out and played really good golf. And as well as he played a Masters winner, the same thing happens every time somebody wins a tournament. It's, boy, if he could just fix these things in his swing, yeah, he'd be awesome. Okay.
Fix what?
Fix what? Okay. The guy wins a major, what are you going to fix?
Right.
You know, I mean, you could look at Andy North, who won 2 U.S. Opens. I think it's only one on tour, but he still won 2 U.S. Opens. Yeah. Or Oval Moody won a U.S. Open, didn't win anything else. So, you know, if you're good enough to win a major, you probably don't want to mess too much with what they're doing.
Yeah, especially if they're setting a record.
Yeah. I mean, holy smoke. Okay. So, you know, a couple of the things, before we get into the swing part of it, let's talk about the mental part.
Yeah.
You know, Cameron McCormick, Jordan's coach, has done a great job with him ever since he was like 10, 11, 12 years old. Yeah. They've worked on game situations and controlling your emotions. You know, and I think that was pretty evident in not only the round that the 4 rounds that he played, but in all of his conferences, his post-round conferences, you know, being on David Letterman, all this stuff was pretty much the kid's got his head on pretty straight.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, if you look at it was the third round, hole 17, you know, made double bogey on that hole. Well, you know, if you go back and look at the footage, you can catch the TV camera. And what he does is when he's walking to his caddy, he smiles at his caddy. Yeah. So that right there is a pretty telltale sign of, hey, you know, he's got his emotions in check, and you know, he's not, this one hiccup's not going to throw him out. Right. You know, I mean, most guys would be slinging the bag or something else, but right, he really had control of his emotions for such a young guy.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, when we're working with our players, you know, they get upset when they get bad shots, and we kind of have a rule. You can be upset. You can go ahead and take your club, slam it into the bag. You have 5 seconds to get over.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you move on. Yeah. Because you can't carry that with you. If he'd have carried that with him, no telling what he'd have done on 18, and then it might have carried into the next one.
Exactly. You know? I mean, there's nothing wrong with showing that emotion. Right. If you don't show emotion, then that may mean you don't really care per se. Right. But you know, definitely have the fire and the drive, but you just got to control how that affects you from, you know, your next shot to your next shot.
Right. So, you know, the mental part of it was really good. You know, the caddy held them together pretty good. Yeah. You know, I mean, they had a good relationship, and they just kind of talk, and he knows when to pump him up and when to calm him down. Yeah. You know, so because it's pretty easy if you're on a roll and you get excited, you got a chance to win your first tournament, your first major, your first high school event, whatever it is. It's pretty easy to get excited. And then suddenly, you know, you lose your momentum.
Yeah, the wheels can come off quick.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, again, we've said it already. He was in check the whole week. And you could tell all week long that he was really just focusing on playing golf. Right. He wasn't trying to, you know, work on anything mechanic wise. I mean, he may have had some specific 1 or 2 thoughts, but I mean, when he got on the golf course, it was complete playing golf, get it from point A to point B.
Right, and you know, I remember reading something else on one of those golf forums. They were talking about, you know, if you're Jordan Spieth's coach, what do you tell him going into the 4th round? You know, well, keep doing what you've been doing.
Yeah. Don't change
anything.
Yeah.
Don't try to protect. Just do what you've been doing, because that's what got you to this.
Yeah.
You know, and too many players, we call it a scoring barrier. They'll go out and they might get 2, 3, 4 under par quickly. And then they start protecting that because they don't want to make a bogey. Well, then the bogeys come because you're not doing what you did to get you to that.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter if you're Mr. and Mrs. Haverty. You know, if you're rolling along at a pace to break 90, don't suddenly become protected.
Mhm.
You know, like one of the members just came in actually. I said, so how'd you play? He said, I was 1 under on the front, even par on the back until I came to 16. I go, so what were you thinking when you started at 16? And he goes, I can just get to the house.
Yeah.
And he went, bogey, bogey, bogey.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I know me personally, some of the lowest rounds that I've ever shot, and whether it's just out playing or in competition, I couldn't tell you how I stood once I got done
Right.
off of 18. I mean, I literally couldn't tell you if you were playing with me what I shot.
Right, and that's what Jordan said. He said he wasn't watching scoreboard. He had no idea.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he just knew he was playing well. Didn't know anybody else was at. Didn't really know, you know, where he stood. I mean, he knew he was out front still, but he wasn't scoreboard watching. And that can be good and that can be bad because the most famous instance, I think, of not watching the scoreboard was Jesper Parnevik and Ray Shulkin several years ago when he had the lead, but he didn't look at the scoreboard and he just threw away some shots. He said if he'd known where he stood, he might have played him a little different.
Right. I would change his game plan a lot.
Yeah, so it affects players in different ways. So, all right, so let's talk about a little bit about the mechanics that, you know, that are prominent in Jordan's speech.
Terrible mechanics.
Terrible mechanics.
Well,
Yeah, so when he sets up, especially with his driver, you see how his guy's hips push forward just a touch, and his guy's spine not lean back as far as I do because I don't have the driver yet. But when he moves off the ball, there's a definite move to the right. His leg doesn't straighten as much as maybe some other people. He doesn't drift his head over this one, just kind of stays up in here. And I'll show you a down the line view of his wrist movement. And then from there, because he has his left foot fairly square, when he starts coming down, that foot kind of just sticks up a little bit, kind of rotates. But when he comes through the ball, you'll notice he still has what we call an arching of the left wrist, and then his elbow starts to bend a little bit, right? And so he kind of finishes out here like this with his elbow bent. So if we relate that to the 5 keys, that club is still in line, and we don't mean in line from the shoulder to here, we mean from the elbow on down. So that is still in line.
Yep.
All right, so Lee Westwood plays pretty good golf with this. His is more extreme.
yeah, I mean, definitely extreme there. And, you know, it was, I can't remember the 3 players that were on there, but, you know, I think it was after the first or the second round, top 3 guys on the leaderboard, every one of them they still had the club in line, but they had, with the driver, they still had the hands way out like this.
Like Charlie Hoffman.
Yep, and I can't remember, Jordan was one of them. Now, if you look at them on a spectrum, again, everybody was up in arms a little bit because saying, well, you're not supposed to hit the driver that way. Well, you can. It's a variation way to do it. You know, but like you're talking here, we're keeping this shaft in line with that floor.
Right. And in fact, somebody put up his numbers on from one of the radar devices, said that he hit down on it like 1.4 degrees. And everybody's talking about you have to swing up. And we talked about that. For some players you do, some players you don't.
Exactly.
Right? If you're controlling a golf ball and you're happy with it, you can hit down on it. If you want to try to maybe add a little more distance, you can swing up a little bit. But there's been a number of players that have gone from hitting down and trying to swing up, and suddenly they couldn't find the fairway.
Yeah.
So, you know, part of that again is up to the player and what works the best for them. The other thing I want to talk about from the top of the backswing, when Jordan got up at his left wrist is what we would call an arched position. I don't know if you guys can see if I can turn around. It's more, I'll do it from this angle. It's more rounded off, a la Dustin Johnson. It's more rounded off on his. So he rounds that off, and as it comes down, he doesn't have to do anything because the face is already right there. Exactly. So he doesn't have to try to roll it or do anything through the ball.
Yeah.
And as he comes down with that, and he strikes that ball, but part of that's what's letting this elbow bend as well.
Has to.
Yeah, you got to do that because with that face and that arching of the left wrist, it's almost impossible to roll it this way. You could, but then you'd hit the biggest hook snow in the main.
Right. You wouldn't find it often.
Right.
again, with that, you know, he's learned what fits in personally the best.
Right.
And, you know, that's what I'm sure all of you have heard us say many, many times, and you and I tell it to our students every day. You know, you've got to find what pieces make sense for you, right? And then we just apply these keys, apply keys to those pieces.
Right. And you're going to have some players that feel as if they're coming here and they have to go this way through the ball. If you got somebody that's cut across it a lot, you may have to get them to feel like you're actually going more that way through the ball. So one little piece of pie doesn't fit everybody.
Right.
You know, nobody likes the same pie. I mean, I like all of them, but you know, most people will have a favorite, right? And then they have other things that they'll eat. But at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for your swing, what you're trying, not what you're trying to do, but what you're trying to eliminate.
Yeah.
So if you're someone that's a little, what we would call outward to inward, and your path and your hands are already going too far left, I mean, you could certainly shift everything this way, but you could also take it here and feel like you're rotating it more outward, getting that club head to travel more inward to outward, which is a different hand path, different pivot motion, everything else.
Yeah. But the keys are all the same.
The keys are all the same.
Yeah.
It's just how you apply those.
Yeah.
All right, well, I see we have a couple of questions. Let me get up here and see what we've got. All right, so the first question is from Eldon, and it says, how to drop the arms and hands into the downswing slot. Why don't you go ahead and do this? I'll stand over here.
Well, I tell you, I'll tell you what, Chuck, stand right here for me and drop your club there.
Okay.
And then turn this way here. All right, so we'll do it just like this. So go ahead and imagine you're holding a little volleyball, swing to the top. Now, if I were to stand here and hold Chuck's shoulders in place, now Chuck, how are you going to get your hands from where they're at here down to the impact?
I'm just going to move them down.
He's just going to swing his arms. Okay, notice he's keeping his chest closed. So a lot of times when we'll do this with players, go ahead and do that again. And now do it the way that most players would do it. See, now he's pushing me out of the way and how the shoulders are coming around. So, you know, that's the best way to get that feel is if you just swing your arms up and I feel like you're keeping the shoulders closed, swing your arms down this way and then blend it in.
Yeah. Make sure you get a little bit of pressure and wait forward.
Wait forward for sure.
Yeah. So, you know, and we've talked about this before. We did a workshop with Mike Bender a month ago or so.
Yeah. Has it been a month already?
I don't know longer than it was in March, wasn't it? Or was it February? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But anyway, we were doing a teaching workshop, and you know, one of the things that Mike talked about, and it makes sense. If you're at the top of the backswing, okay, the farthest thing from the ball right now is not your knees or your hips or your shoulders or your hands. It's the club head.
Yeah.
So I better figure out a way, just doing the same drill. I'm going to go up here and Brendan's going to hold my shoulders. So I better figure out a way to get that club down to the ball. Now, you wouldn't hit it this way, but as I start moving this, I'm going to allow my body to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? But you've got to get that club furthest away, get it down to the ball quicker.
Yeah.
Right?
And just like we talked before, I know you've done the demonstration where you hold the rod, take it here and you just turn, and it will make a small swoosh. Right? But when you swing your arms, right, it speeds up.
That's fingers.
So I'll go. I can't
That's
do it
not
very
even a
loud.
snap.
Show me.
I can't snap.
You guys get the picture though. But that's what we're talking. People think that we talked about it. I believe it was last week on hands controlled pivot versus pivot controlled hands, where the speed comes from this motion. It's not generated from here. You got to swing your arms fast.
You got to get the arms going. Supported by the pivot.
Supported by the body. Yes.
All right, let's see. The next question we have here.
I'm going to practice my snap.
Okay, practice that. This is a question from Mike. And I'm going to have to get over here and get a hold of it because it's way over to the side here. Okay. Let me take that one out. Okay, this is a question from Mike. Transition and shift of body weight are killers. How can you shift without sliding and still maintain posture and impact? Well, transition and shift of body weight are not killers. They might be in your personal swing. And if they are, it's simply because they're not being done effectively, right? So let's talk about that. Go ahead and set up and do that, right? So from the top, you do have to have, this is not swinging in a barrel, by the way, right? So Brenndan goes to the top, and again, with a good transition, the transition move starts in here, right? There's just a slight move. Now, a lot of players, let's go to the top again, start again. A lot of players, when they start getting up here, they'll start doing this before they ever get to the top of the swing. And again, you don't want to overdo it. You do not want to get your hip outside your ankle. That would be too much. Right? So now you've got too much slide and it's too early. So again, a lot of players, go ahead and do it in slow motion. As you get back right about here, they'll start moving that way. So the shift has already started before the hands and the club ever get to the top of the backswing. Right? Yep. If you just went to a purely rotational motion, I'll turn around this way for a plain view. All right, so now if he went to the top now, and all he did was turn the hips, now you can see the club is coming more outward to inward. And that might be a feel from somebody that's too much inward.
Too much getting more like that.
Yeah.
Then you want to feel that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So there is a shift, and a lot of people refer to it as weight because that's common nomenclature for it. But it's actually you're moving pressure from your rear foot to your front foot. So however you want to call that, you're still moving pressure. And again, it's starting before you ever get to the top. So you're back here, and we'll do drills sometime. You go ahead and get set. I'm going to have you swing. And when I say now, I want you to start shifting forward. And we'll do this drill. Now. So he started, when I said now, I wanted him to move forward with the club still moving back. So that gives you the sensation of making that pressure shift. All right, let's see what else we got here. So anyway, I hope that answered it for you, Mike. Eldon, thank you. Let's see what else we have. Okay, I don't see anything else on here. I'm trying to scroll down. I don't see anything. So if you do have any more questions, just feel free to shoot us an email with a question. We'll get it back to you. Also send us your ideas for more webinars, and members give us ideas all the time. Yeah, that Pat Gilchrist got hundreds of them. So you know, I don't need a book, Pat. Just give me one idea.
One topic would be great.
Yeah, one topic. So anyway, I guess we'll wait and see what happens with Adrian Peterson and the boys.
We might have any time. We're going to get chucked up.
All right. All right. Well, thank you all. We'll see you again next week. See ya.